So today I'm going to talk to you guys about HARBLEU playing Roadhog. Roadhog right now is one of the best tanks in the game, and one thing that I really like about him is that you can actually play him with 3 DPS, 1 Roadhog, and 2 supports. Now not everyone's going to do that, but I do see it quite often in GM games that I try to spectate. Most of the time you want to try to get 2 tanks if you possibly can, but if you can't, especially on King of the Hill, you can still win your game. So that's something that's kind of nice to be able to figure out right there. Right here at the beginning, we saw something pretty nice. You know, he's pushing around the right edge. He pushes quickly around corners and not really slow pushes in the open. With most other tanks, you know, Orisa, Reinhardt, anything like that, you know, you want to slow push out in the open, let your DPS get some far range damage. But with this guy, with Roadhog, you don't really want to do that. You want to push around the corners, try to get your kills for yourself, and going from there. Unfortunately, HARBLEU did get, I think, 4 kills, and his team still lost the fight somehow. But, you know, sometimes that's going to happen, and that's what you're going to be seeing a lot in this game. He's doing amazing as this character. He's carrying, he's doing the best he can. But in the end, it's kind of hard because sometimes your teammates just might be busting out a little bit. With that said, if you win or if you play enough games and get good enough at Roadhog, eventually you're going to get enough games where you can carry your team or they're good enough to be carried. And Roadhog's definitely the tank that can actually learn to carry your team. So that's kind of what you want to, I guess, think about when you're playing this character and trying to get good at him. He is a tank that can carry, unlike a lot of the other tanks which I don't think can carry nearly as badly without, you know, as much team support. Anyways, right there, you know, he went out a little bit too far. I don't think that the Mercy's going to res him this time. His team just gets wiped again, which is unfortunate, or maybe, you know, there we go, we get a res. And one thing that I want to mention about where he stands, you know, earlier on I said he played around corners, pressed quickly with his team. As well with that, you want to make sure that you're just always next to walls so that you can go in and out of them, and so that, you know, when you actually... You can essentially just close space between you and the enemies, and you really do need to close space as this character, because if you do close space, of course your damage is a lot more, and you can't really miss your hook. You can get some really nice god hooks at far range, and he does get that pretty often, but you see the majority of his hooks being at medium to close range. That's, for the most part, what seems to be working well for him, and kind of what you want to focus on instead of just, again, trying to go for super far range hooks that aren't really way too reliable. Well, during, like, right here and a few seconds earlier, we're seeing him often use his heal to just get in close, and then, you know, ult, go for a hook, go for a few shots, anything like that. He doesn't often just walk up in front of the enemies and use his heal to just try to block damage. I mean, he does sometimes, but for the most part, it's to get him in a good position to finally finish people off. Right there, you know, using his melee to finish that Zenyatta off when you do run out of bullets. It's a good thing to do. But yeah, that's kind of how that works as far as the heal goes. He doesn't really play it like, you know, an Orisa Fortify, where for the most part you're just trying to take a lot of damage, because Orisa doesn't really need to get in, but Roadhog, yeah, you do kind of need to get in. And that's kind of how that goes. Let me find my next tip I have right here. Oh, here we go right here. With his ultimate, HARBLEU's using that right now. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to say his name wrong because I can't pronounce it, but I'm trying my best. But he uses his ult often to just get a single kill, and mainly, you just want to make sure that you're using your ult in a small closed area to get a lot of good value. If you use it out in the open, which I think he does in the last point of the last game, it doesn't do way too much. I mean, you can maybe get some damage, maybe shred some of the tanks when you're really close to them, but they're just going to back off. You're going to charge a lot of ult from the enemy supports, and it's going to be kind of hard for you. So if you can try to just save that into situations where you are close up, that's kind of where you want to use it. I know that's very basic, but that's just kind of how it goes as far as that goes. Finally, during this game, you know, they're just pushing on this point. They're doing their best. HARBLEU's trying to carry as much as he can. He's gotten kill after kill after kill, putting everybody straight into the middle. I think they might finally get the point right here. But one thing you want to remember is that you can carry your team even if they play like busters sometimes. During this game, his team's not playing the best, you know. They're trying their best, obviously. No one's inting or throwing or anything like that. But the enemy team just, on general, outplaying them quite a bit, using their ultimates better and everything like that. But even with that said, we see that he's carrying for the majority of the game. I feel like if his team was just a little bit better, he could have won this game in general. But even if you can't always, you know, carry every single one of your games, you still can really destroy in all your games and just add a lot of pressure to your team and overall increase your win rate. If you're super good at this character, I think you can easily get like a 55% win rate just because he does supply so much. But do remember that you can't really get like 100% of a win rate. You know, sometimes your team is just not going to be the best. That's just kind of how it works. Finally, you know, on this point, you know, pushing around, trying to get kills. It's working out okay for them. I think the majority of his team does die pretty soon, though, which is a bit of a pain. He unfortunately doesn't get to that Mercy right there, and no one on his team pushes up with him to get that Mercy. And that's one thing that he kind of learns to do during this match. Doesn't really learn to do, he just remembers to do. Tell your team to play more aggressive, because as this character, as Roadhog, you really do have to play pretty ham. You can't just out spam them for the most part. That doesn't really work. You gotta go up, go ham, try to get picks close up, And I don't even know how the hook didn't get that person right there. That was kind of dumb. Spaghetti code. But yeah, you do have to make sure that your team is getting up there, and his team just really isn't. So if they aren't doing that, talk in chat and try to make them go ham. Sometimes it won't work as much as other times. During this first point, you know, it didn't really work because it was a bit too late. The second point, or I guess the second map, it really works. His teammates start to go in, they start to listen to him, and then again in the third map, they aren't listening quite as well, and they aren't using their abilities quite as much as he would hope to. Let's just leave it at that. But yeah, if you can try to get your teammates to do stuff, it can help. Yeah, and that's kind of just what he does at the end of this round. He tells his teammates to move up because they were far too far back last round. And in general, I'm going to say that in GM, whenever I watch it, people are a lot more aggressive. They go for a lot more picks, a lot more kills. Right there, we saw something which is nice, which is that whenever you try to, you know, just get up in the front line, target the Winston first. Don't go and just run through his barrier and try to go for the Mercy or anything. You're just going to die and really just kind of throw that fight a little bit. I mean, if you could get the Mercy, that would be good. But the chance that that's going to happen is almost zero. So really just don't go for that. Try to get the Winston, and it worked out pretty well. They actually essentially get a free use of the enemy res. Unfortunately, his team kind of backs off. They get on the point, which does make sense because they want to finish off the point. But they do leave HARBLEU back by himself. And again, they probably should have pushed up a little bit more, tried to finish off those kills. But even so, you know, he's doing fine. He's getting a ton of damage, a ton of kills out. And yeah, he does have the most limbs and the most gold damage and everything. So, I mean, you can get that as character pretty well. And you can get one-shots a lot more as this character than I thought. I thought that, you know, as Roadhog, it was kind of taken away. But often if you just hook, walk forward, shoot, and then melee, you can still kind of one-shot people. Right here, you know, unfortunately, this Trace is just kind of splitting herself off. And it's not that good for the enemy team. But after that happens, he actually tells his Lucio, I think in a few seconds, to speed boost him up to try to catch people out of position. Oftentimes, I think it's right here. There we go. He asks for the speed boost. They start going up there. They get the Winston. He's way out in the backline by himself. He shouldn't be right here. Oftentimes, people like Winston, D.Va, all these other characters just kind of do this. I don't really know why. Unfortunately, again, some of his team didn't go with him. But, you know, maybe I guess he could have called it out a bit more. Maybe I guess people could have listened a bit more. But, you know, he called it out, and it works really great. Speed boost on this character, while normally you wouldn't think is that good, you just want to make sure that you're saving your hook, you're walking up about melee range or a little bit further away, hooking them, and then trying to one-shot people with the rest of your team. That's what speed boost is good with this character for. Or even against somebody like Winston again, just to be able to get through his bubble so that you can kill him, that's also really good. Continuing, you know, he's finishing off a lot of people, he's killing a lot of people with his primary fire, but as well with his melee. I think he's killed the Zenyatta like 3 times with his melee. It's something that you can do, just ending off a ton of kills. Of course, melee doesn't do way too much damage, but if you do use all 4 of your shots, it's a good idea to, you know, try to get the melee, and if that doesn't finish them off, then you might just want to take a breather and run away. And they essentially can't really follow you way too well because, you know, you are going to be at full health, you'll have time to reload, and it's kind of nice like that. I think we see something kind of like that right here. You know, we get some heals, he lives out pretty well, and it's not way too much to worry about. Right now we have an ultimate. I think that he asked for Zarya to go for ult. I think the Zarya ult was up. Maybe it wasn't. I think it came out right after he actually went for his ultimate or something like that. Yeah, right after he went for his ultimate. And I guess, you know, you probably should call out to your team, you know, do you have your ultimates up and then go for his. But, you know, I think he just assumed that it was up. As far as Roadhog's ultimate, though, I think most people can agree that it's not way too good out in the open, as I was saying earlier, unless you have something like a Zarya ult to combo with. So just don't really go for it right there. I think that's really like the only big mistake that I've seen him do like this entire match. He does a lot of really good stuff, though. You know, he's playing around right here, waiting. Most of the time, actually, as far as waiting, he doesn't really wait for his team way too much. HARBLEU just kind of stands out in the front line. He doesn't play, you know, way up on the point by himself, but he kind of plays around these corners, hoping to get a pick, hoping to get some damage out, while his team is just, you know, playing the best they possibly can. Unfortunately, his backline gets picked again. He couldn't quite finish off that Reaper right there, but he does stop the Reaper ult, so his team doesn't get wiped, and he walks a little bit far behind because he knows that his team's probably going to lose this team fight, and because I think there's an ult or something going on in there, so whatever. He finally walks up, though, finishes off this guy, finishes off the Mercy, everybody, and they finally get on the point again. And yeah, you don't really have to worry about way too much your team, I guess, is this character, which is something that a lot of people would like because a lot of people don't really like all their teammates. I guess some final stuff before we finish off this point. That was a great hook right there, is that you don't really need your DPS to do all your damage. Often as this guy, if you can, or as Roadhog, if you can just get your DPS to kind of distract them and to just kind of, you know, use some of their crowd control or to just, you know, kind of force them into bad positions, you can walk in there yourself and get a lot of your damage. Because, I don't know, it's just the way Roadhog is. You can do a lot of damage with this character and you can carry a lot of DPSs, and that's how I kind of feel that round went. Finally, we're finishing it off on a very open map. I feel like the only reason why they lost actually this entire game is that the map's so open. Roadhog is, you know, okay on open maps, but you really need to just push to the point as fast as possible. Make sure you go in, keep doing well, make sure you get picks. He plays around the left side right here so that he actually can get in a lot closer, a lot easier. And the Winston goes out, so really they should have been able to win right here. But I think his team just kind of messes up a little bit again. But yeah, do make sure that you're pushing around. You know, just around left, for example, right here, where there's a lot of walls you can hide behind and everything like that. But unfortunately, again, Roadhog, I feel like, doesn't do way too well in super open maps because you can't get close enough easily enough. You kind of get abused, like, enemies abuse high ground on you too easily. And it's just kind of hard for you to overall play this character on very open maps. It is possible, but I feel like you do need a lot more team play, and that's just not quite what his team's doing right now. They get a third tank, which is a little bit weird. I think someone switches, though. I think maybe the Zarya switches. Maybe doesn't. A little bit awkward on this map, as I don't think tanks are way too great on this map. But HARBLEU is essentially playing like a DPS, so I mean, I guess you can go for it. Triple tank does kind of work. And one thing I want to talk about is that triple tank with Moira and Roadhog, and maybe a Reaper as well. I think that's going to be really great. Like a Reaper, Roadhog, Reinhardt, Orisa or something comp, or, you know, Zarya, Diva, anything like that. I think that'll work really well, and I think that might put this character even more into the meta because he can just walk up close, gets healed a ton per second, 80 per second. All of them get healed. You get an Ananade, you all get even more heals. There's a lot of stuff to really be happy about coming up with Roadhog. Again, you know, right here, though, he's just pushing around the left. He does get a nice ultimate again. Unfortunately, I think right here, he just gets stuck in the corner somehow or something. Yeah, he just gets, like, stuck in the corner because geometry in this game is a little awkward. But I guess that's just kind of how it works. His main gameplay on this point, though, is something that I'd like to mention real quick. He doesn't really try to actually, like, go behind the enemies, flank them all the time. I mean, I guess he kind of flanks them. Mainly, for the most part, he goes around the left or right of the enemies or straight in front of them, next to walls or next to corners or anything where he can just get right next to them, but still have his team hide behind him and get some damage out. He doesn't really go straight behind the enemy team like the old Roadhog because the one shot isn't quite as guaranteed. And it's just generally better for you to be a little bit more next to your team to help protect against tanks because you are a huge tank counter, even though you are a tank. I mean, you get countered by quite a few DPS if you can't one-shot them, but there is still the fact that you do counter tanks, and yeah, you do want to make sure you're standing next to your team to try to kill out tanks because, you know, like Winston, he hurts your team quite a bit if he can get to your backline, but you can stop that almost single-handedly. Unfortunately, during this round, again, DPS is doing quite the best. I think the Genji missed just a lot of opportunities with his ultimate and with a lot of his damage. HARBLEU still is getting rezzed quite often, though, so we can get out a lot of his DPS, get out a ton of limbs, and every single fight he's getting 2 to 3 limbs, and that's something you can do with this character. One thing you might want to remember, though, is that when you are playing Roadhog, it is harder for most of your DPS to kind of play because they don't have a shield to hide behind. They don't have a Winston barrier to go behind or to go in. They are a lot more likely to get killed. So while you might be getting out more damage and more kills, if you have certain people like McCree or Reaper or Soldier or anything like that that kind of needs a shield to play pretty well, you can't really complain way too much about why they aren't doing amazing because it doesn't really fit their character playstyle way too much. I mean, Genji and Tracer and all those characters, it shouldn't really affect them, but especially the more spammy characters. That's something you might want to kind of, you know, think about, I guess, before you get too mad at your team. Speaking of getting mad at your team, a Roadhog player right here is a little bit angry about this Zarya ultimate. On paper, it looks good because it is a 6-man Zarya ult, but the enemy team was completely prepared for it. For the most part, Zarya ults you don't want to do when there's like a team fight already 100% in order, unless you know that you can like finish them off with a Diva bomb or something immediately. Instead, you want to try to get them while the enemy team is, you know, pushing up, not all next to each other, or I guess next to each other, but just not really ready for the ult. But right there, they were super ready for the ult. The Zarya ult just way too late, and HARBLEU was just a little bit too close for his ultimate and got immediately CC'd. So overall, not the best, and yeah, the Zarya just is ulting maybe not the best this game, especially for the way that Roadhog kind of has to use it to get in with. It's just not working way too well for them. And I guess one thing to just kind of mention about this again, some games your team is just kind of really heavy. Right here, you know, he's going in, he's getting damage, he's got 2 kills by himself, but the Tracer gets a triple bomb. His team just kind of dies, everything's just not going great for him, and HARBLEU just kind of has to take it. I mean, he has so much damage, so much limbs, so much everything, but sometimes that's just kind of how it works. And I guess that's something to learn from the pros. Often they have games like this where it's just their team's not doing as much as they wish they were. They're doing personally great themselves, and sometimes you might have games like this as well, especially with this character. But even with that said, if you play enough games for long enough, you will rank up. And I wanted to show you guys a video where a pro player actually did lose a game, even though he was doing amazing, because it can still happen. I know that that might, kind of demotivate some of you because you're like, well, if I'm amazing and I still can't win, this game sucks. But you should think of it more of it like this. If you get better at the game, you don't guarantee 100% win rate. You guarantee a higher percent win rate. So, instead of maybe being like a 50-50 Roadhog player, if you get good enough at him, you're going to win around 60% of your games. You're going to be able to carry quite a bit more, and eventually, if you win just 52% of your games, let's say, you're going to rank up. So, really, I mean, you will lose quite a bit of games, but you will win even more games. So, that's kind of how you have to think about it, and that's how these pro players, even with so many games that you think they should have just 100% won, they lost them, that's how they're still so high up, I guess, even if their team isn't always the best. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. That's all I'm really going to say about this gameplay. I'm sorry that I sounded really bass today because I'm really feeling sick and just not the best. I'm sorry if I repeated myself too much or anything like that. I don't have the clearest of mind, but I hope you guys can still learn a little bit from this. And, yeah, I guess if you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to leave a like, comment down below what character you do want to see, and press the subscribe button to see any more videos like this in the future. Or press that notification button to join the notification squad. And the first one to say notification squad, I'll respond to you with whatever you want me to ask, I guess, because, I don't know, that'd be kind of fun. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.